Let's get back to Intel. It beat first quarter earnings estimates, but guidance for the second quarter disappointed Wall Street, and shares are down in after hours, trading by some 9%. Here to discuss, Cory Johnson, the Futurum Group Chief Market Strategist. Cory, it's great to see you, as always.
Always.
You know, investors clearly have lost some patience with Intel here.
Yeah.
And they are just not gaining the necessary traction. Give us your sort of big picture read on the quarter.
It was an interesting quarter and disappointing guidance, surely, for the next quarter. And we'll get into the interesting part, but I think when we talk about the market part, the stock part here, you know, I think what you see is investors kind of taking a swing. Is this going to be the quarter when Intel turns around? Is this going to be the quarter when they get the orders for the Foundry business? Now, of course, we got a warning a few weeks ago that Foundry was not going well. We kind of knew that coming into this. But I think the guidance, and we'll hear a lot more on the conference call shortly, but the guidance suggests that the issues really are about getting new customers for the Foundry business, customers beyond Intel for the Foundry business. But and that, you know, we've seen some hints in the semi-cap equipment makers, what we've heard a little bit from ASML and others, that maybe it's happening, but slowly. So we'll see with some more detail on the conference call. But on the other side, there were really good green shoots in the stuff that they make. The actual chips that they're making, their client products business is up 35%. I mean, really strong. The notebook business up a lot. So really strong performance from the stuff that they make. But the making of chips is proving to be a problem for them, and getting into the business that TSMC has dominated for many years.
And how do you think their new Gaudi product fits into that scheme, where they really do have to compete with a huge foundry business in the form of Taiwan Semi, and also lots of players around the globe are getting some of that stimulus money, the CHIPS Act money that's being targeted for chip makers and is starting to be deployed?
All right, so three issues you brought up. I'll talk to all of them. Let's talk about Gaudi. Let's talk about where they are in the manufacturing. Let's talk about CHIPS Act, starting with CHIPS Act. They have received more money from the CHIPS Act than anyone else out there. So they're in a really strong position, building out their facilities all over the country, in particular in Columbus, Ohio. There have been mixed reports about how fast that is going, but I was struck by the day that the Wall Street Journal announced that they were slowing down the construction in Columbus, Ohio. I had just left the great city of Columbus, Ohio, and seen the facility, and they're building fast. Indeed, they were closing roads at the moment the Wall Street Journal's report came out. So they're clearly pushing ahead really fast. They're getting a lot of money for the CHIPS Act, and that is good for the Foundry business, right? The second thing we're going to talk about here. So the Foundry business ultimately is going to be very difficult to do, but they are pushing ahead at really having cutting edge Foundry services, and as you mentioned, in the angstrom levels, at the real cutting edge, which we haven't had in this country for many, many years. And in terms of how successful Gaudi is going to be competing with AMD, and yes, hopefully competing with NVIDIA, it's frankly just too early to tell. The designs are fantastic, but we'll see what they get in terms of client wins. I mean, NVIDIA is really sucking the air, all the oxygen out of the data center business with what they're making out there, and it hasn't left a lot of room for AMD, and Intel's not there yet with Gaudi, but the designs are certainly promising, so we'll see if customers actually go for it.
Cory, even though the Foundry hasn't been seeming to go as fast as investors want it to, generally it has seemed to be the sentiment that Pat Gelsinger, the CEO, was doing the right thing by, you know, sort of reorienting. At what point does that sentiment go away, right? You know, how, like, this is the story.
I think you're right. How long is his leash?
Exactly. This is the question I keep
asking. Is he taking a long walk off a long pier?
Exactly. How patient are investors going to be with this?
Here in the Ferry building. Why not? Yeah, why not? Look, who knows how patient investors are going to be. I mean, the thing about investors' patience is it goes away really fast. And they're patient until they aren't, and then they abandon a stock quickly. And I don't think that's what you're seeing right now. Now, 9% is a good move after hours. But as you mentioned, the stock hasn't done much compared to a lot of other semiconductor companies in terms of the stocks, the Philly stocks, if you want to. It's one of, if not I think it's the second worst performer in the last year, in a year that has been great for semis. Now, is going into the Foundry business the smart thing for Intel to do? Well, certainly it will. It will diversify them away from the issues that they've had around slowdowns in the PC business. Really, you know, when the PC business catches a cold, Intel catches a fever, and it has always been thus. So could the foundry business give them lots of other business? Well, only if they execute it really well. Intel's been very good about building foundries for Intel chips for decades. But can they have the kind of open business model that Taiwan Semi has done? That remains to be proven. And I think it's going to be a long ways before we know if they're really good at this. I talked to Pat Gelsinger only a few weeks ago about this very topic. What are you going to do that's different than Taiwan Semi? And his answer to me was not as satisfying as I would have liked. He said, look, we're going to be Taiwan Semi, but we're going to be here. And we need to have diversification of manufacturing of chips. And indeed, when we look at what happened during the pandemic, I think the most difficult lingering issue was the concentration of semiconductor construction, if you will, in Asia. And it has really, it continues to spill out in the global economy. And I think even in the inflation issues we're seeing even now. Insurance, for example, right? The big economic numbers we've seen about inflation coming from car insurance. Car insurance is high because replacing car parts has been difficult and been more expensive than it had been in years past. Why? Because of semiconductor design, semiconductor manufacturing. So these lingering issues in the global economy that came because of the concentration of construction of semiconductors into Asia are going to be solved very slowly. Intel stepped into this very quickly, at least announced their plans for that. But I think it's going to take quite a while till that plays out.
Patience indeed. All right. Thanks so much, Cory. Good to see you.
It's good to see you guys. Thank you.